You get the bag and fumble it. You get the bag and fumble it.
You get the bag and fumble it, I get the bag and flip it and tumble it. Straight off a lot, 300 cash, and the car came with a blood in it. The mama a thot, and she got ass, and she gon' fuck up a bag. Pull up to the spot, living too fast, dropping it up in the stash. You get the bag and fumble it, I get the bag and flip it and tumble it. Straight off a lot, 300 cash.
Welcome back to Two Wheel Lunatic, and in today's video we have the Firefox Road Runner Pro with us, and in today's video we are going to review this particular bicycle in all the aspects. So without wasting any further time, let's just begin with the video. Now, the first thing that we need to talk about are the tires. Well, for any bicycle, the main thing that matters always are the tires. And on this particular bicycle, the case for the tires is, so basically these are the aftermarket tires that my friend has installed on this bike, as you can see. But these are the thin tires that you get from the factory and for the shop for that matter. And these are the thin tires that you get on this particular bike, and the vinyls are the original that came from the shop itself. And these vinyls are actually really very strong, and they can take a lot of force on them. So if you're thinking to go off-road on this bike, you're free to go. Same case is for the rear tires. Well, the rear tire has also been changed by my friend, as you can see all over here. And this particular bike has been used for almost now a year or two, and this is the case with the tires. So the tires on this bike are not that great. If you're riding this particular Road Runner Pro always every day, you have to change the tires within a year, because the tires are not that great. The next thing that we talk about is the paint. As you can see, there are a lot of scratches on the paint itself, going from here till here and also a bit over here. Here are also some of the scratches, as you can see, and here's a lot of scratches because of the lock. But then a lock is always necessary for you to protect your bicycle from not get stolen. That's the main reason you keep a lock. But then these scratches are not just doing a great job. This particular bike is really very great when it comes to handling. The handlebar on this particular bicycle is really very light, so even if you are riding in extreme traffic, it's very easy for you to maneuver, because as you can see, the handlebar is just light, and the cycle is also super light. It doesn't have just weight, so you can also lift it with one of your hands like this, and you won't have any problems in lifting this particular bike. Talking about the gear shifters on this particular bike, it has 3 gears on the front, and it has 7 gears on the rear side of the bike, and both of the gears are just awesome. I mean, you can shift them very smoothly. But just one thing that you need to avoid on this bike is, the one thing that you need to avoid on this particular bike is not to oil the chains, for that matter not to oil the chain of any bike, because it's just not good for the derailleur and the gear shifting mechanism, because there's a lot of dust that goes on inside this particular place, and it just prevents your bike from shifting your gears, from shifting nicely and smoothly. So my friend has applied a lot of oil on this chain, and that's the main reason. See, you can also see the oil on my hands, and that's the main reason that the gears don't shift on nicely on this particular bike. But if you want to keep the life of your gear changing mechanism and also derailleur as well as a chain, always avoid applying oil on the chains, because this in turns lead to improper shifting, as you can see. Now if I shift this place like this, the gears just won't shift the way they should. This thing comes out really well, but then while riding the gears just don't shift. Now let's talk about the size. Talking about the size, this bike is really a very tall bicycle, and for short riders, I mean, you will have to adjust the seat properly. I'm really tall, so for the timing, since I have this bike, I have adjusted the seat to the maximum height, because I'm really very tall. And if you are a short rider, then you should keep your height till here, till where my finger is. You should keep the height till here, and it is very light to ride, as I said, so riding shouldn't be a problem. But then if you are short in height, then this bike is not for you. Let's talk about the fenders. My friend has installed aftermarket fenders on this particular bike, but in the rainy season, these thin tires can spread a lot of dirty water behind you, behind your t-shirt, and sometimes on your face if you don't have these fenders installed. So I recommend that if you own a Firefox Road Runner Pro, I recommend you to install fenders like these, like my friend has done. But this particular one is really very tall. It should be at this height. As you can see, it should be at this height and not this, but it's just fine. You should have both the rear as well as the front fenders installed, because if you don't, then there's a lot of dirty water and you can also get sick due to that dirty water. Life of your brake pads depend upon how you brake your particular bicycle, how you brake in the brake pads. My friend has just roughly ridden this particular bicycle, and that's the main reason that the original brake pads that came from the company just tore out, and he has installed these aftermarket brake pads. What I always recommend not to do is never install aftermarket brake pads on this particular bicycle. Always install the original ones, even if they are costly, but they are just meant for your main bike for the purpose of these vinyls, as you can see. So always install the original brake pads and never go for aftermarket brake pads, especially for the bicycles that cost around 20 to 30,000 rupees. I mean, it's just not good if you are going for aftermarket brake pads on your bike. Always go for the original ones. So the worst thing I see in this particular bicycle are the grips. No, these are not the aftermarket grips, these are the original grips, and due to staying in heat for a long time, this is the condition of the grips. So whenever I ride this particular bicycle, my hands get sticky always, just because of the rubber on these grips. As you can see over here also, this is really very sticky, and the grip has also been torn from here, which is not a good sign. So the grips on this bike are not that great, but if you keep it in a shadow or stuff, then you can have a longer time. But this cycle is almost now for more than a year. And yeah, important thing you always might be looking is a suspensor. Suspensors on Firefox bikes just don't work. No, this is not the fault of the owner, this is the default. The company itself, the suspensors just don't work. They have just spread inside, they are inside full, and they just can't come out. Even I tried to go with the mechanic, but he says that you have to change the entire mechanism of these suspensors, which is just costly around 6 to 7,000 rupees to change the original suspensors, and no one would spend so much money on the suspensors. The next thing that irritates me the most is the design of this particular stand, because if you have to take your pedals backwards, you just cannot take them because the stand interferes the pedals. I just don't understand that why didn't they install this particular stand right over here? Why is this place empty? For what is this place made for? It's just made for the stands. In normal bicycles, the stands are always here. Why the stand is not here, and why the hell the stand is over here? I mean, it irritates me every time when I pedal back. It just doesn't move, and when I have to put this particular thing up, I have to hold the entire bike like this and pedal this particular thing backwards and then take off the stand. This is the worst thing that I've ever seen. This was everything that I wanted to say about the Road Runner Pro. Overall, this is an awesome bike, this is an excellent bike, but then if you are thinking to spend your 18 to 20,000 rupees on this bike, make sure that you always take care of your bike nicely, maintain it, because my friend has just not maintained it. He didn't even take care of the grips as well as a suspensor, then the seat, fenders, vinyls, tires, etc, etc. So I will guide you that buy this bike. It's an awesome bike, it is lightweight and it is fun to ride in traffic or on the roads. Even if you're going on long rides, it's just awesome to ride. And yeah, that's all about I want to say about this particular bike.
You get the bag and fumble it, I get the bag and flip it and tumble it. Straight off the lot, 300 cash, and the car came with a blood in it. The mama a thot, and she got ass, and she gon' fuck up her bag. Pull up to the spot, living too fast, dropping the dope in the stack.